Grine hummed in mild interest as he viewed the camera feeds before writing down several notes on the pad he had at hand. Those particular failures have done well enough considering the circumstances, but there are many clear improvements to be made for my prime specimens. Fascinating though that may be, Sabistra sneered with sarcasm. We have far more pressing concerns right now, Grine. Indeed, Grine coldly began, but before he could continue, his eye snapped to the center of the room as Varjul reappeared with Karl in tow. Karl's armor bore fresh scorch marks and clawed gashes from the heavy fighting, and blood dripped from a wound on his side. He carried his warhammer with a heavy grip, his reptilian gaze smoldering with quiet rage, as Sabistra quickly made her way over and cast a healing spell to stop the bleeding. They're even stronger than they look, Karl growled, his deep voice cutting through the chaos. It's the fucking cult of the Destroyer! Truly? Sabistra asked doubtfully, as she checked the Zarek over, healing his remaining wounds with trivial words of power. I have not known any of those fanatics to be that heavily armed or armored, and I've encountered many in my travels. I speak true, Karl snapped. Oh yes, Captain. Yes, I do. Likely a highly specialized cell, Grine spoke up. I've never encountered them before, but I recognize their work all the same. The cyber zombies are a clear giveaway. I would almost admire those creatures if they weren't so crude. We can discuss it once we leave, Sabistra pointed out, before looking to Svarjul. My regulators have been helping the assistants here prepare Dr. Grine's equipment for transfer, but we need you to create and maintain a portal out of here. Svarjul bristled at that, as his serpentine eyes betrayed a cold anger, simmering beneath the surface. All units withdraw to the inner sanctum and prepare for emergency evacuation. Grine calmly spoke into the comms. Let the remaining failed specimens hold them off. He turned to the others. This sanctum was lost the moment they arrived. However, it was an eventuality we had well planned for. I have a teleportation circle ready to go, Svarjul acknowledged. I shall begin preparations and summon a portal now. I can assist you, Slara volunteered, and the Nira considered her for a moment before slowly nodding his agreement. This bunker is well protected, Karl acknowledged, speaking up for all to hear. All the same, be quick and be ready to move. The defenders had barely started moving before the lights suddenly flickered, and sparks rained down for a moment before the backup power kicked in. Grine quickly checked the nearest tank to ensure it hadn't been compromised, as the loud creaking of blast doors echoed around them. What? Sabistra hissed in shock. Grine! That was not me, Grine rebutted, his tone calm, though his actions sped up in contradiction to his mood. They've breached this sanctum. Get ready to fight, Karl snarled, limbering his muscles and bringing his hammer up. There's a cyber zombie that talks. That one's mine. Well, they certainly found their way in earlier than expected, Grine said, his voice laced with dark humor as he sped over to a hulking containment pod that hissed ominously in the corner. The glass was frosted, but the vague outline of a massive, monstrous figure loomed inside. Zephyric, remain on Overwatch and deploy whatever countermeasures you can for the drones. Vexar, I'm field promoting you as a Marilictor. Sabistra screeched out her orders as she unfurled her spiked chain whip. We shall redeem ourselves for our failure here and now in the name of our creed. Yes, Lictor, both of them responded. I didn't want to play this card so soon, but desperate times beckon, Grime muttered to himself, his pale fingers dancing over the console. The pod rapidly opened with a hiss, releasing a cloud of freezing mist that rolled across the floor as the hulking body dethawed and shambled out of the pod. Time for you to serve your purpose, Grine whispered almost lovingly to the creature, his hand caressing the side of his head, a motion which he ensured nobody else could witness. Go, entertain our unwanted guests. The prototype let out a tortured, guttural roar as it stepped out and thundered forward, compelled to obey its master. Let this one go first, Grine instructed. I've utilized an alchemical combination I want to test. We're under attack and you want to do fucking experiments! Carl snarled at the doctor. Possessing a bounty like mine makes traditional testing difficult, Grind snapped back coldly. Having the entire city of Naganai determined to find me hampers my work further. Care to let us know of any other experiments you want to run while you're at it? Sabistra hissed at the doctor, between casting several buff spells between them all. One more, as a matter of fact, Grime muttered, moving to a laboratory fridge and opening it. Very carefully, he reached in and mixed the contents of several glass vials together, keeping his hand steady before fixing it carefully onto an auto-injector and loading it to the right measurement. Without hesitation, he pressed the injector to the side of his neck and pulled the trigger. The reaction was immediate. His veins glowed faintly as the liquid surged through his system, branching out like a web of light beneath his pale, scarred skin. Grind staggered slightly, clutching the console for balance. His pupils constricted into slits, and his breathing became quick and shallow before he felt a wave of heat coursing through his muscles, tendons, and bones. The sensation wasn't painful, not entirely, but it was more like the feeling of a cold spring snapping into place. Yes, Grime whispered to himself, his face betraying a rare smirk, testing his enhanced strength as he gave a casual flick to the desk with a single finger, gouging a deep line into the metal as if it were soft clay. Quite effective. Grine! What the fuck can this thing do? Carl bellowed out over the din of the opening blast doors, as a small robotic creature slipped through the gap and began dashing down the corridor before several bursts of plasma fire from Vexar cut it down. The beast Grine had released was allowed to bypass the defenders as it surged forward, letting out a guttural roar as several cyber zombies made it through the ever-widening door, charging straight at them. I suggest you maintain your distance, Grine answered, with a hint of amusement, as the creature bellowed even louder, its ever-growing massive bulk barreling down the hallway like a living freight train as it tanked several hits before it reached the cultists, its bulk becoming too cumbersome to move. You're blocking the tunnel? Sabistra asked doubtfully. Not quite, Grime retorted calmly, as the explosion came a moment later. The creature's detonation was deafening, as a shockwave ripped through the corridor back towards them. Walls buckled under the force, sending chunks of concrete and twisted metal raining down along its length, with burning chunks of mutated flesh the only source of illumination around them. Heh, not bad, Cull admitted, as they heard the sounds of movement up ahead, as the cult of the Destroyer moved to clear the wreckage. I've created a portal, but something is preventing travel, Svarjul snarled in anger, as the swirling arcane haze of purple swirled in front of him, with no sight of a destination on the other side. Maintain it while I find out what, he hissed to Slara, who nodded as she poured her focus into holding it in place. Closing his eyes, the Nira shut down his physical senses and focused on the arcane, astrally projecting as he searched for the source of the blockage, tapping his staff on the ground as he sent out invisible tendrils of the faintest shadow to reach out and probe their surroundings. This should not be possible, he thought to himself, unless... He gave new instructions to his tendrils, and soon enough, they discovered the source. Willing his astral form, he transported himself to the plane of shadow, where in a circle around them, a series of glyphs glowed faintly. And then, he saw the figure. Well, well, this is unexpected. The cloaked form of Lameth communicated from behind the line of glyphs, voice smooth and mocking, sitting idly as they observed the gaze of the Nira fall on them. I knew Skitterdeath would discover something by deploying microdrones to follow those regulators, but it seems we stumbled upon something interesting. Who are you, and what is your objective here? Svarjul ignored them, casting a powerful breaching spell that smashed into the barrier created by the glyphs. Several cracked and dissipated from the force, and he followed quickly with two other attempts. The barrier was weakened significantly but did not break, as Lemeth countered by adding more power, a few of the cracked glyphs reforming. "This will not stop me," Svarjul sneered, breaking several more glyphs. "They don't need to," Lameth mocked. "You will be long overwhelmed before you get to me. Hardly worth using my strongest glyphs for that, especially when I'm just a simple observer." "You will have observed little," Svarjul retorted. "You can't bypass my wards, just as I can't bypass your glyphs." "A stalemate," Lameth noted. "One you cannot afford to maintain." "But one I can break," Svarjul smirked. "I know what you are. The potent use of glyph magic makes that obvious to the likes of me. I would have thought the elemental plane of water would be a more comfortable place for you to observe from, beast. We have slain the likes of you before." "Oh, I doubt that," Lameth snapped back. "There are none like me." "Hide away like the vermin you are," the Nira sneered. "An apex race brought low again and again." "You will not goad me into a duel to compromise my position, mageling," Lameth growled dryly, the sound echoing in the blackness of the shadow plane. "I am content enough witnessing your demise through the minds of those that will soon destroy you all." Svarjul considered his options, of which he had several, but he had no intention of tipping his hand just yet. "Until we meet again, beast." The Nira cocked his head as he raced back to his corporeal form. "He's returning!" Slora alerted them, as she prepared a kinetic barrier to protect the autonomous assistants from loose shots while they were awkwardly arranged around the portal. "We can't escape by our efforts alone," Svarjul hissed as his mind returned to reality. "They have something there blocking me with glyphs. I can't kill them in time. We need to escape by portal, and we need someone on the outside to generate one. Grine, call him. We don't have a choice." "Fine," Grine acknowledged from somewhere amidst the chaos, as he zipped back, using his enhanced speed to rush to the comm station. "Hold them off," he called back to the others, as he disengaged stealth protocols to send out an emergency signal he and Svarjul had prepared when they first came here. "Funnel them into the tunnel entrance! Slara, maintain your kinetic barriers!" Sabistra called out, giving orders as she cast another incantation, scowling as the torture spell had no effect on the leader whatsoever. "Yes!" Skitterdev yelled out, as Sabistra lashed out with her spiked chain, which wrapped around their claw as she pumped yet more torturous divine magic through the symbol of her god. "More! Give me more!" Snarling, Sabistra pulled back and whipped again, the magic of the chain actually tripping a nearby cyber zombie, as Skitterdev jumped above it, just as one would a skipping rope, catching the backswing on his lightning claws before charging them full of electricity, sending a devastating electric shock along the metal that caused Sabistra to involuntarily hiss. Suddenly, Skitterdev was hit from behind, loosening his grip on the chain as Sabistra fell back to be grabbed by Kull, who pulled her back. "Your methods are unusual but effective," Grine noted, having been the one to strike. "I do not know how a cyber zombie like you is capable of speech, but your autopsy will provide me with much insight." Suddenly, Dr. Grine darted straight towards Skitterdev like a rocket, juking to the side as they slashed out at him with their claws, barely missing Grine despite his enhanced speed. The doctor stabbed at them with a knife of bone, which broke off ineffectively against a metal plate, forcing Grine to change tactics as he lashed out with a fist that dented the metal, before he dodged back to avoid a counterswipe that crashed into a console behind him, obliterating it in a shower of sparks. Suddenly, the air behind Svarjul shimmered as the dark, swirling portal behind him stabilized, finally forming their escape route. "The portal!" Svarjul shouted out. "It's open! Move now!" "Go!" Kull yelled, breaking off and dashing through the portal, scooping up the wounded Sabistra as he did so. Svarjul covered him, before quickly following to allow the remainder to run for their lives. Slara maintained her barriers to allow many to flee, before she was forced to withdraw. "Initiate cleanse protocol," Grian calmly called out to the voice recognition, wasting no time in disengaging and dodging away from Skitterdef, taking a mental note of his losses, before escaping through the portal himself. "No escape!" Skitterdef roared out in anger, as he cut down a fleeing regulator, spotting a few remaining stragglers before he mowed them down, as he dashed towards the portal to give chase and finish the cowards off. Until something smacked him hard in the chest, shooting him back to smack against the far wall. Skitterdef landed on his feet and snarled. From the depths of the newly connected portal, a lone figure stepped forward with blood-red lips, curled into an unnatural slasher smile of razor teeth. Wearing a patchwork suit of garish, clashing colours and exaggerated makeup, there was only one person it could be. The killer clown. "A beast so fierce with claws to see. Perhaps you'd like to play with me." The killer clown cackled as they pointed their umbrella at Skitterdef in a mocking challenge. "Your ass is mine alone, clown! Cack!" Skitterdef immediately roared, unleashing a hail of fire from his twin blasters, which tore the lab around them, shattering consoles and sending sparks flying. Reacting quicker than his form would suggest, the killer clown blinked to a nearby pile of rubble as a pie materialized in his hand, hurling it at Skitterdef. His blasters tore it apart, and it detonated mid-air in a burst of blinding light. "Well done! You shot my pie!" The killer clown mocked, as his grin turned vicious. "But I expect far more before you die." "You shall have it, cack!" Skitterdef snarled, as they spooled up their Gatling blasters and unleashed everything they had towards the killer clown, who responded by quickly extending their umbrella into a shield, tanking the bullets as the umbrella spun with the force of the plasma fire. The killer clown released a balloon they had blown up, which zipped around the lab before smacking straight into Skitterdef, the blast sending him skidding back, but not knocking him down, and the killer clown's mocking smile turned into a snarl, as seeing Skitterdef remain standing after having tanked the powerful explosion. "Is that all you've got?" Skitterdef mocked, his forces ready to engage by his order, holding back only by his command. In response, the killer clown summoned a comically oversized mallet, which he swung with surprising speed, Skitterdef barely dodging in time before retaliating with a brutal charge, his claws raking the air as he aimed for the killer clown's throat. For a moment, it seemed he had the upper hand, but the clown twisted unnaturally, bending like a marionette to avoid the deadly strike before swinging the mallet again, this time connecting with Skitterdef directly, knocking him back with full force before he leapt back to his feet. The killer clown blinked again back to the portal as the swirling mana began to expire. "So sorry, I've got places to be, but I'll be back. You'll see." He grinned challengingly, before closing the portal behind him. "No!" Skitterdef snarled, as he looked around at the trashed lab. Zax would pull what he could. They'd taken few losses, and the intact bodies could be repurposed. Yet despite the fact that they had decisively won the engagement, this victory felt hollow, unfulfilling, unsatisfactory. They had achieved very little of strategic value, and though it had been a good fight, too many escaped. Unacceptable. Cock! Skitterdef coughed in rage, spawning up his blasters once again. "Cock!" he yelled, as he unleashed hell on the nearest wall, churning up the metal as he did so. "Cock! Cock! 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 Cock!" Far away, nestled at the very edge of Naganai's sprawling borders, a squad of militiamen and women were bored out of their minds. The district checkpoint they were manning sat at the very edge of the Karagar Retail Park, a once thriving commercial hub named after some Shaskazaki family member's retainer from long ago that lay right on the edge of the city, where urban sprawl met the wilderness beyond. Boarded-up storefronts with faded, peeling signs lined the cracked streets, their windows covered in graffiti. A few lampposts still flickered, casting uneven pools of light over the empty vehicle bays, dotted with weeds pushing through the asphalt. The checkpoint itself was little more than a ramshackle installation at the wilderness gate that barely anybody used, tucked away along the vast district wall behind the remnants of an abandoned electronics store and a derelict fast food restaurant that Shaskazaki had yet to liquidate, being as focused as they were on their current corporate war against Corvin Enterprises. Still, the company owned the district, so they need worthless wage slaves whipped enough to work in shitty conditions to guard it. Along the wall, a narrow watchtower with a rusted ladder offered a vantage point overlooking the wilderness, though this was rarely used, as successive shifts of guards stationed here considered the wilderness outside to be no more than an expanse of boring trees that not even the most eccentric of hikers would bother checking out for the sights. Still, it saw use tonight, though not exactly for a company-related purpose. The shadowy form of a Zarek stood at the top, barely visible in his jerking motions in the shadows, created by the lone burning barrel the Gazas scraped together for themselves, the company not seeing fit to provide them with adequate warm clothing or heaters, instead forcing the Gaz to scavenge for themselves or risk dying of exposure. Laughing as he heard chuckles below, he finished the motion with a heavy pant of exhaustion, grabbing onto the rail with one hand, as the short spurt of liquid hit the fallen crunchy leaves below. "You're a dirty man, Wanuk!" Spafu called down from the heat of the brazier, causing Wanuk to laugh as he pulled his trousers back up, feeling immediately better as he quickly climbed back down the rusted ladder to where it was warm. "Might as well take advantage of the company perks in this shithole," Wanuk retorted, as his feet hit the ground. "Fuck, I hate it here." "Wow, really, Wanuk?" Xana, their third companion, asked sarcastically. "I thought you were joking the first few thousand times you said that shit. It could be worse." "What? Actually being able to fight Corvin and earn bonuses doing it?" Wanuk gasped grumpily. "Gee, that sounds fucking awful." "Corvin Enterprises are kicking our asses and they're not even taking it seriously," Spafu snorted. "The only bonus you'd get is a free cremation thanks to Corvin Plasma Fire. Then maybe you'll be lucky enough to feature on TV if Cecily Corvin gets you." "She's overrated. Just get in close and snap the little bitch's neck," Wanuk snorted. "I do that, and I'm rolling in millions." "You're a dumbass, Wanuk." Xana shook her head. "No wonder you got turned down 5 times for the Ronin program. You need to actually have a brain." "No, you need to know how to fight," Wanuk growled, stunned by the comment. "Can't prove I can if I'm stuck here as a mall cop, babysitting the fucking trees." "If it makes you feel any better, there'll be plenty of gaps in the military after the war ends." Spafu shrugged. "Maybe you can get a spot as a basic patrolman or something. Might pay a few credits more and you get some better gear out of it." "Nah, I don't want to be some shitty patrolman," Wanuk snarled. "Ronin for me." "You've got to justify the investment for all that cyberware," Xana shrugged. "Though I've heard the Shogunate Council are greenlighting some other things." "Shit, if it's what I think it is, I'd stay away from that shit," Spafu warned, the Zarek reaching into his pocket and pulling out a prepared joint of dubious contents. "Why not?" Wanuk asked. "If it means I can actually get ahead, I'll do it." "You do you," Xana shrugged with a smirk. "You don't need to be a bitch about it. Maybe you can go play Soggy Biscuit with the South Checkpoint crew if it'll make you feel better." "Fuck you," Wanuk growled. "I actually want to get ahead and rise to the top. You want to be covering this shit forever?" "Course not," Xana snorted. "I'm doing a term of security to pad out my resume before I apply for a supervisor position in one of the warehouses. If I show I have prior experience in security, that'll work in my favor. What about you, Spafu?" "Don't care," Spafu shrugged. "A wage is a wage and I'm too old to be bothered. Maybe if I get fired, I'll sign up with Commander Cocaine and loot what I can during their raise for a nice retirement." "That's one way to do it," Wanuk snorted, as the three guards laughed at that, as they all poured themselves a cup of steaming hot liquid from the kettle they'd had, lining the fire.
"Think this soy calf is older than we are,"
muttered Xana, swirling the contents of a chipped mug, the Vivian idly scrolling through her comlink as she did.
"Better than drinking from one of the taps here,"
Spaffoo quipped, sitting on the floor cross-legged next to the fire.
"You'd glow in the fucking dark."
"At least it'd make our jobs easier," Wannock joked, reaching behind his ear for the piece of chewing gum he'd been chewing on for several weeks, before something gave him pause. At first it was subtle, just the chilling wind stirring through the dilapidated buildings, but Wannock swore he'd heard something else, like faint whispering, almost like words but far too indistinct to make out. "Hey, you hear this shit?" he asked, setting his mug on the cold asphalt for the moment.
"Yeah,"
Spafford whispered back.
"It sounds like—"
His face suddenly scrunched up in concentration as he let rip a wet fart. "That fucking stinks!" Zara cursed as she backed away while the veteran guard laughed. "Hey, I was serious," Wannock told them. "Like voices or something." Before either of the others could respond, there was a sharp metallic clang from the direction of the watchtower. Wannock shot back in alarm, his gum falling out of his mouth as he swore the whispering got louder.
"What the fuck was that?"
Xana hissed.
"Probably something else in this dump going to shit,"
Spaffoo shrugged.
"Relax."
Another noise followed, and they clearly heard a strange sound, almost like some kind of childish laughter from nearby.
"That's not normal,"
Zara whispered, her voice anxious.
"Split up and check it out,"
Spaffoo said gruffly as he unholstered his gun.
"Standard sweep. Nothing we haven't done 1,000 times before. Wannock, get back up that tower and see if it's from outside. Zara, check left. I'll go right."
The guards did so, splitting up as instructed. Wannock shot up the tower as quick as he could, quickly reaching the top and breathing heavily with exertion. His unease grew as he scanned the surrounding area from the platform. The retail wasteland stretched into the distance, a mix of decaying concrete and patchy wilderness, illuminated by the faint glow of the city far beyond. Then he saw them. Flickering lights, like small ghostly orbs, danced in the woods just beyond in the wilderness, bobbing and weaving as though they had minds of their own. Wannock froze, gripping the railing tightly as the lights pulsed alluringly, drawing his focus like moths to a flame. "What the fuck?" he muttered, rubbing his eyes as he forgot for just a moment what he was doing. But the lights remained, the hypnotic dance continuing. And then he heard it. A faint cackling, low, malevolent and raspy, like dry branches scraping together in the wind, but it sounded close, far too close. Wannock spun around, his flashlight sweeping over the ground below. "Zara? Spaffoo?" he called out, his voice cracking slightly, but he received no response. "I swear you better not be fucking with me!" he shouted, panic rising in his voice as he heard mocking laughter from all around him. "Fuck this!" he yelled in a panic, descending down the ladder quickly, stumbling the last few steps as he dashed towards their group comm unit back of their fire. "Wait." Wannock's head snapped around as the beam of his light landed on a figure emerging from his left, half shrouded in darkness. At first it resembled Zara, but the figure's movements were wrong, Wannock realized, as they jerked unnaturally forward in a dead sprint towards him. Wannock didn't even have time to scream, and the last thing he saw was a pair of evil red eyes. The creatures convened back at the fire with their newly subsumed forms, their sick game of toying with the prey ending as quickly as it began. As one, they looked towards the city in the distance, the echo of fungal spores stirring somewhere far beyond the horizon. Whether the infected one had succumbed to his disease or not did not matter. It had led them here. They all looked to each other sullenly for just a moment, before fanning out and scattering, moving silently and blending seamlessly into the night, as they disappeared into the depths of the city.